when Kevin was about 5, that's my son, he developed what I would call, they would call now like ADHD. He was very hyperactive, wee boy, lovely wee man. And by the time he was 14, his behavior had really, you know, got a bit on the risky side, I'll say. And after this happened, we were put in front of a children's panel when Kevin was 14. And their decision was that Kevin would benefit from a spell in what they called at that time an assessment centre. He came out of there at 16, a very damaged young man. We didn't know why, but he was a very damaged young man. And there he started self-medicating with different drugs, glue sniffing, you know, all that sort of things. And then that led on, obviously, to heroin use. We went through 14 years of substance abuse with Kevin. Obviously tried to help him throughout that time. We never ever disowned him. And during that time, he started behaving really outrageously. Breaking into people's houses, breaking into shops, just going down that awful road of criminality. And that ended up with him being in prison for 6 years. When he came out of there, he was completely institutionalized. He had no grip of how reality went or how day-to-day life was run. He had no skills. He had no life skills. So he landed back at home. During that time, Kevin had overdosed maybe 2 or 3 times. And that's when we had to obviously involve the ambulance service. They held no judgment whatsoever. I mean, they knew exactly what was going on, what happened to Kevin. And they were quite happy to treat him as any, you know, you would treat any normal patient. So after, you know, all this time went on, and then of course it was a fateful day when Kevin actually overdosed. But the point of that was that he had been abstinent of drugs for 6 months. He had been on a methadone script before that, which he hated, and he wanted to come off of. So I helped him off of the script, and he was doing very well. At 4 o'clock that morning, the following morning, I received a phone call to say that Kevin had collapsed. I got in the car and went to where he had collapsed, proceeded to do CPR. That was no use. Nobody had phoned for an ambulance. There was a few people hanging about. Nobody had phoned for an ambulance, so phoned for the ambulance, but obviously it was too late, but they worked on him for about half an hour anyway. It was quite a terrifying journey for myself and the family. And it's a very chaotic time for any family to go through, especially when there's no help available. For the ambulance service, I never felt judged in any way. I received a huge amount of kindness, of compassion, of understanding. And it was just all a positive way. I think just the compassion and understanding that was there. I didn't have one person ever sort of look at me as much to say, you know, your son's just a waste of space. When you're in the process of trying to get help for your child, you want people to understand what's going on, why this person, there was never a question asked why this person was behaving in this way. My son was just classed as you're being a bad boy. I think for every family, if you are met with just the compassion, the understanding, of people that you're there to see, and that they include you in your son or daughter's journey through that process. There's not a one fixed road for anybody. Everybody's journey in addiction is unique to them. Well, that's my view anyway. You know, not everybody's the same. Not everybody accepts the same things. So yes, just compassion, understanding, and looking at the person as a human being.